I wanted to make this short video to talk about transportation in the Philippines. And I'm just going to get right to the point and tell you how to get from point A to point B in the Philippines. Now, there's many methods of transportation in the Philippines. You can walk, you can take these little jeeps called jeepneys, you can take tricycles, you can take e-bikes, you can take a motorbike. But we're going to talk about the nicest one. Okay, so if you're living in the United States or Europe, this is the most convenient way for you to travel, especially if you have a lot of groceries, especially if you want to be in the air conditioning because it is hot here. So in the US, we have something called Uber. So if you're watching from the US, you know what Uber is. They also have Uber in other countries as well. Uber is an app, it's a company, and they have an app, and you can just have a car come pick you up. Well, here there is no Uber. Instead, there's something called Grab. And so Grab is a company and they have an app that lets you order fast food, it lets you order groceries, and they also have transportation. So basically, you download the app, you connect your credit card to it, and you can use this Grab app to order a vehicle, and the vehicle will come right to your door and pick you up and take you wherever you want to go. On average, the cost is somewhere between $3 to $4. That is the average that I personally spend on Grab, $3 to $4 per ride. Yes, I've spent less, sometimes $2. Yes, I've spent more, up to $8 or $9 going, for farther trips. So it is quite inexpensive. Within the app, you can select taxi, which gives you a lower rate. You can also just wave down taxis on the road. Taxis are generally cheaper than Grab. So if you're out on the street, you've got your groceries, you just flag down the taxi, they'll stop. You tell them where you want to go, you pay them in pesos, everything is good. So Grab is absolutely the easiest way to get around in the Philippines. It is the most expensive way. It is more expensive than a taxi. It is more expensive than a motorbike. It is more expensive than a jeepney, a tricycle, or an e-bike. So, but it is the nicest. I have used Uber in various countries throughout the world, including the United States, and I have found that the Grab service here is the best I have experienced in any country because one, the drivers are very polite so far. I've had very polite, hospitable drivers. They respect your privacy. They are very nice. Two, the vehicles here are nicer. So they're big, right? You're getting these giant Toyotas. A lot of times they're SUVs, and you can pay more for a bigger vehicle, but a lot of times you'll get just a really large vehicle. So it's roomy. There's air conditioning. So if you're going to the grocery store and you're loading up on toilet paper, milk, eggs, all your groceries for the week or for every, if you're buying a lot of stuff, the garage driver will help you. They'll put stuff in the trunk. You can fit it in the back seat. It's roomy. It's air conditioned. A lot of times there's a separate air conditioning control for the rear seat. I mean, these are nice newer vehicles. People always think, oh, the Philippines, they have this view of the Philippines. The vehicles here are very, very nice. And so these Grab drivers will come and they will pick you up in these giant vehicles with great air conditioning, and they are super polite, and it is very inexpensive compared to Uber in the US. So transportation here is top notch. Many people who come live here, they end up buying like little motorcycles because motorcycles are inexpensive here. A lot of people ride motorcycles, so that is a cheaper way to get around. But if you're just visiting, or if you don't want the hassle of driving in traffic, if you just want, white glove service where they come pick you up and take you to the store, they pick you up, they take you to the beach, you're going to pay between $3 to $5 a trip via Grab. And again, it's cheaper if you pay for a taxi. So for a taxi, I have found typically, I'm doing the conversion here for a taxi, I have found that it's usually less than $3.50 every time. Usually, it's pretty much every time I've taken a taxi that I can think of, it's been less than $3.50. So taxis are cheaper than Grabs. So a taxi might cost you $3.50. The Grab might be $4.50 or $5. So it's a little bit more for the Grab compared to U.S. prices. Compared to Uber, it's ridiculous. It's completely ridiculous. And again, the service here is better. The service here is better in general when it comes to many things, restaurants and stuff like that. But let's stay on topic. Transportation, Grab is the way to go. You can also do taxis. You can flag those down. The only difference is if you get a taxi, you will have to pay in pesos, so in actual Philippine pesos. They don't take credit cards. Taxis are generally cheaper. You do hear stories about taxis overcharging tourists and stuff like that. There is a little meter in the taxi, and you can see that when you jump in, and that tells you the price, and you can see it. I've taken various taxis. So far, I haven't had any issues with taxis overcharging me, and I always tip the taxi driver, especially because you're paying cash. You can also tip the Grab driver with the app if you choose to. It's up to you. So yeah, Grab I think is the way to go. Every time I get a Grab, I mean, so far I've been lucky. I am very happy with the service. I'm very happy with the vehicles. They're so large, they're roomy, and they usually have great air conditioning. It's a relief. There have been situations where I try to get a Grab and it's more expensive. For example, maybe a Friday night at 6 p.m., it's raining and you're leaving the mall and everyone's leaving at the same time. It's gonna take a while. What typically happens in those situations is they have security, and the security will help everyone, take the next available taxi, so people don't fight over the taxis. It's a good place here. It's a good place. So if you're worried about transportation, worry not. You can use your American credit card, get the Grab app, and then just start using that to get from point A to point B. And again, the vehicles here are much larger. Uh, I think it could be because they're a little bit less expensive. The new cars here, I've done some research on this. New vehicles here cost less than what they cost in the US. Also, we are in Asia. So, we are close to other Asian countries. So they do produce a lot of cars here. So maybe it's cheaper to get them here. There's also a lot of car dealerships here in the Philippines. I've seen a lot of car dealerships for all kinds of brands. So there's just a lot of vehicles here and they're widely available. And so Filipinos, the ones that do have cars, have very nice cars. And so the Grab drivers have these, large vehicles, big Toyotas with air conditioning, um, and they're very comfortable. So, and they're great drivers. This is very, very different from my Uber experience in different countries, including the United States and other countries I've lived in or visited. I've been all over the world. And the Philippines so far is number one for transportation in terms of, if you're going to take a Grab, people do complain about the traffic here. There is terrible traffic. I don't drive here, so I can't comment on the driving. I can't comment on that. To me, as a foreigner, it does look like the driving is more difficult than in the US, and so it's not something that I've decided to jump into yet. At some point, I will get a little motorbike, perhaps, but for now, I try to walk everywhere, and I do take other transportation methods like jeepneys, tricycles, and e-bikes sometimes. But most of the time, if it's really hot and I've got groceries or I've gone out to buy something and run some errands, it's just much easier to wave down a taxi if you see one because it's cheaper. And if you don't, just use the Grab app. You can also select taxi on the Grab app, which is nice. And you can also get a motorbike ride too, which is actually a lot cheaper. You can ride motorbikes, they give you a helmet. That's another way to get around. But Grab, I think, is the most expensive. And again, white glove service. Getting from point A to point B, take a Grab. I hope this video has been helpful. Hopefully, it's answered all your questions about transportation. It's not an issue in the Philippines. So, if you're thinking about coming to visit or moving here, if you can afford the Grab trips, I mean, it's not bad. If you think about it, if you were to take a Grab every single day, 5 days a week, let's say, it would cost you $10 a day. That's $50 a week. That's 200 a month. That's cheaper than your car insurance, maybe, and your gas in the US. That's not counting repairs. So, even not owning a car here and having, white glove service, having someone pick you up, it's cheaper than owning a car in the US. So, yeah, I hope it's been helpful. If you have questions, leave comments. Take care.